So how do you keep an onion good at home when you get it there? And how do you pick the right onion to take home in the first place? This is one of those questions that I get all of the time. So what I've got is a box that we've had from production last week, kind of trying to mimic the age of the onion that you're gonna see at the grocery store, right? Because we're gonna pack it today, but it's gonna take 7, 10, maybe 12 days through the entire supply chain from the time it leaves here until it gets to the grocery store. So in that process, there's some breakdown, there's some changes in this onion. So what are you going to look for? Well, I'm gonna look around here. One of the things that you can actually see right here, and you can see a crack between here and there. If I were to cut this open, which I will do for you right now, there's actually new root growth going on in this onion. It's a storage onion. So this onion was harvested in September, but the growth plate is right here. Right here is the growth plate. And there's actually a new tiny little sprout starting to push here. Well, it pushes into this fleshy layer of the onion and it actually does what we call pooching. It starts to lift the root plate up and it cracks the skin and you'll see this interesting little yellow ring. Quality-wise, completely good to use, but that's what's going on. Let's see. Another thing that you might see later in the season is just, and this really varies, but you can see a lack of skin. Now, you don't really need to worry about a lack of skin at all unless you see things like mold or spotting or something like that externally. I don't think I can find anything here for you that's gonna demonstrate that. I'm too good of an onion grower. They're all perfect. Here's something, but you'll see this at the grocery store every once in a while. You'll see this dark color right here. And what's interesting about that is this dark coloring, we can even get that early season, comes from the liquid from the inside of one onion getting on the external skin of another. It's almost like oxidation, but it happens from the outside. So an onion, when you cut it, doesn't oxidize or turn brown like an apple. But if that juice gets on this skin, like see how I just rubbed that on there, if we were to come back in a few hours, we would actually see a dark spot on that onion. So it's just the reaction, a chemical reaction that happens. Completely usable, completely good, but aesthetically not super pleasing. And frankly, for now, that might be one of the only defects I can find. Another thing that you do see on rare occasions is what we call translucent scale. And I'll have to cut a few onions here before I find any. People sometimes think that an onion's been frozen when they see it, but that's not the case. Here you go. In fact, this onion has a little bit of translucent scale on the outside. I don't know if you can see there. Right here, it's got a little bit more clarity than what it has towards the middle. If an inspector was here, they would actually cut this onion just like this into 4 parts. And then they're gonna try and find where the translucent scale is. This actually wouldn't score as translucent scale because I can't clearly see my finger through it, but it is the beginnings of translucence. You're gonna see it in your onions sometimes. Nothing to worry about, completely good, completely usable, and the shelf life actually for those onions is going to be the same. So, you've gone to the grocery store, you found the onions, now you have a few more details, you know why there's not skin here, you know why there's a little bit of a separation from the skin on the top to the skin on the bottom because of the pooching and the new growth. If this onion had internal sprouting, in fact I have one right here, hold on. There's the red one that's got some new growth, a green sprout in the middle. Okay, so if we look right here, we can see a light green color right here. What that is the same thing that I was talking about, the pooching, this growth plate, right? So on this onion right here, this yellow, we can see this little lifting right here. That's a new stem, just like a lily would have. It's gonna send this green stem all the way out the top. Well, this one, in this case, is already slightly green. If I actually cut down here, bingo. So here we can see where the new sprouting is happening. Again, no impact to your usability, really no impact to your shelf life. In fact, sometimes you'll get home and in a week or 10 days or something, this will start coming out of the neck. No big deal, cut it off, use it. If you don't want to eat that in the center, with this would be kind of like eating scallions, really. Just like when you cut the scallions up and you eat the leaf of the onion, that'd be the same thing. So you really don't need to remove it. If you want to, pop it out, do that. Okay, so how do we keep these things good when we go home? What do you need to do? You know that we're storing these things for upwards of 9 months at a time. And we do this all with ambient air, no chemicals, no removing the oxygen from the atmosphere, none of that. This is not a controlled atmosphere type of storage to get these onions to last this long. It's just being in the right conditions. And I get another question. When these get to you, why do they only last for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 days sometimes, and we can store them for so long? It's the supply chain, guys. We can store these and put them away in the perfect conditions. But those perfect conditions can't be maintained through the entire supply chain. If this is going to go to the grocery store, they can't have a building that's designed just for storing onions in the optimal conditions. We can, because we have, millions and millions upon millions of pounds of these here. So we do that. They do the best that they can through the supply chain, whether it's a wholesaler, a food service, or a retailer, but it's a compromise. And that's why by the time you get it home, it's been through that compromised condition. Not poor conditions, just a compromise, considering the perfect conditions that an onion needs, or the perfect conditions for an onion specifically. So when you get home, what onions really need? So you need to be cold, have air movement, and be as low humidity as you can possibly find. Those of you that are in southern Florida, I'm sorry. Those of you that are in southern Texas, I'm sorry. There's not a lot you can do in those atmospheres. But if you are in a place where you can keep that humidity below about 60%, 70%, you are going to see that your shelf life is much longer. So let's say sub 70 degrees, sub 70% humidity, and good airflow. And what I mean by good airflow, like I've heard people talk about putting onions in nylons and hanging them from a nail, or back in the olden days, they would actually take the tops when they would harvest these and they would braid them like you've maybe seen with garlic, and you do that. I think if you just keep them in an airy basket, under your sink or in your basement or something like that, you'll be fine. Don't put them in the fridge. That's probably not the place that you want to have them. If you do that, you'll get another 3 or 4 weeks out of these onions, and you'll be able to enjoy them just the same as you would have if you'd picked them up straight from us. We'll see you.